Jinwoo Kim stood in front of the bathroom mirror and tried to stop his hands from shaking. Today was the biggest day of his life. At 28 years old, he was the youngest diplomat ever chosen to represent Earth in an alien meeting. His reflection showed a nervous young man in a crisp blue uniform with too many buttons. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "Just sign some papers. How hard can it be?" The transport ship felt tiny compared to the massive alien vessel they were approaching. Through the window, Jinwoo could see the Corvin flagship stretching across the stars like a metal city. It was 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Ambassador Minji Lee sat beside him, reviewing her notes one last time. She was 45 and had been preparing for this moment her entire career. "Remember, Jinwoo, the Corvins respect strength and honor above everything. Stand tall, speak clearly, and whatever you do, read everything twice before you sign it." Jinwoo nodded, trying to look confident. The Corvin Empire controlled dozens of star systems and commanded the most powerful military in the galaxy. Earth needed their protection desperately. 3 other alien races had already threatened to invade human space, but none dared to challenge the Corvins. The docking process took an hour. When the airlock finally opened, Jinwoo felt his stomach drop. The corridor beyond was built for giants. The ceiling stretched 15 feet above his head. The doorways were wide enough to drive a car through. Everything was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. 2 Corvin guards waited for them. They stood nearly 10 feet tall with broad shoulders and arms like tree trunks. Their skin was blue-gray, rough like stone. Golden eyes watched the humans with careful attention. They wore armor that looked like it could stop a tank shell. "Welcome to the Starbreaker," one guard said in heavily accented English. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Commander Thala Vex waits for you in the ceremonial hall." They walked through corridors that felt more like underground tunnels. Other Corvin stopped to stare at the tiny humans. Some pointed and whispered in their alien language. Jinwoo tried not to feel like a mouse in a castle full of cats. The ceremonial hall was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. Hundreds of Corvin warriors filled raised platforms around the room, all watching the center where a massive table waited. The table was carved from a single piece of black stone and covered with glowing documents. Commander Thala Vex stood beside the table like a living statue. She was even bigger than the guards, nearly 11 feet tall and built like a mountain. Her armor was decorated with medals and battle honors. Scars crossed her arms and face, telling stories of countless fights. Her hair was white as snow, braided with small metal rings that caught the light. But it was her eyes that made Jinwoo stop breathing for a moment. They were golden like the others, but there was something different about them. Intelligence, curiosity, maybe even kindness, though it was hard to tell behind that warrior mask. "Humans," she said, and her voice carried across the entire hall. "I am Commander Thala Vex, Shield of the Empire, Breaker of Worlds, Defender of the Outer Rim." She listed her titles with the same tone someone might use to read a grocery list. "You come to speak of trade and protection." Ambassador Lee stepped forward and bowed formally. "Commander, we are honored by your welcome. I am Ambassador Minji Lee, and this is my colleague Jinwoo Kim. Earth sends its friendship and hopes for a long alliance." Thala nodded once. "Then we begin." The ceremony was unlike anything Jinwoo had ever seen. Elder Corrin Bax, an ancient Corvin with skin like weathered leather, spoke in the old language while touching different documents with a ceremonial staff. Each touch made the papers glow with soft blue light. There were dozens of documents scattered across the table. Trade agreements, protection pacts, cultural exchange programs, and things Jinwoo could not even identify. The Corvin writing looked like someone had drawn lightning bolts across the pages. The translation devices in their ears worked, but the words came slowly and sometimes made no sense. "The Trade Compact for Agricultural Goods," Elder Corrin announced, pointing to a glowing document. Ambassador Lee signed it carefully after reading every line twice. "The Mutual Defense Treaty" came next. Another signature, another step toward alliance. Jinwoo tried to follow along, but the documents kept shifting position on the table. Corvin workers moved them around constantly, organizing them by some system he could not understand. The translation in his ear was getting worse as more people spoke at once. The ceremonial words mixed with regular conversation until everything became noise. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. The uniform felt too tight. Hundreds of alien warriors watched his every move. Their golden eyes reflected the glowing documents like tiny suns. "The Cultural Preservation Agreement," Elder Corrin called out. Jinwoo looked around the table, trying to find the right document. Everything looked the same in the strange light. The Corvin writing seemed to move and shift like living things. He reached for what looked like the right paper, a formal document covered in official seals. Ambassador Lee was busy signing something else and did not see him. The elder waited patiently, staff raised. All those eyes were watching. Jinwoo could feel sweat running down his back. He signed quickly, trying to copy the flowing style Ambassador Lee had used. The moment his signature appeared on the document, something changed in the air around them. Bells began ringing, deep, musical sounds that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The Corvin warriors straightened to attention. Elder Corrin dropped his staff, staring at the document in Jinwoo's hands with wide eyes. "What?" Jinwoo looked at the paper more closely. The writing was different from the others. Older, more decorative, and there at the bottom, next to his signature, was another name written in flowing Corvin script. Thala Vex moved closer, her massive form casting a shadow over him. She looked at the document, then at Jinwoo, then back at the document. For the first time since they had arrived, her expression changed. The corner of her mouth might have twitched upward. "By the ancient laws of our people," Elder Corrin's voice boomed across the suddenly silent hall, "a sacred bond has been formed. The human Jinwoo Kim and Commander Thala Vex are joined in marriage before these witnesses." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Warriors shouted in their own language while others simply stared. Ambassador Lee grabbed Jinwoo's arm, her face pale with horror. "What did you sign?" she whispered. Jinwoo looked up at Thala Vex, who towered over him like a living mountain. She could crush him with one hand. She commanded fleets that could destroy planets, and according to the document in his shaking hands, she was now his wife. The bells kept ringing, and somewhere in the distance, Jinwoo thought he could hear laughter. The emergency meeting in Ambassador Lee's office felt like a war council. Maps of Earth covered every wall, and communication screens showed worried faces from around the planet. Jinwoo sat in the corner, still wearing his diplomatic uniform, while experts argued about what to do with his accidental marriage. "This is a disaster," said Director Park from the United Nations. His face was red with stress. "We cannot have our diplomats marrying alien warriors by accident. What will the other species think?" "The Corvins take marriage very seriously," added Dr. Chen, Earth's leading expert on alien cultures. "Their marriage contracts are considered sacred. Breaking them is seen as the worst kind of dishonor." Ambassador Lee paced back and forth, her heels clicking on the metal floor. "How serious are we talking? Can we negotiate? Offer compensation? Trade deals?" Dr. Chen shook his head slowly. "I have been studying their culture for 10 years. Corvin marriages are permanent. They believe the gods themselves choose who should be joined together. To them, Jinwoo's signature was not an accident, but destiny." Jinwoo finally spoke up. "What about Thala? What does she think about all this?" Everyone turned to look at him. He had been quiet for 3 hours while they discussed his future like he was not in the room. "We do not know," Ambassador Lee admitted. "The Corvin ship left orbit this morning. They said Commander Thala needed time to think about the situation." Meanwhile, aboard the Starbreaker, Thala Vex stood in her private quarters looking out at the stars. Her second-in-command, Captain Jaren, waited patiently behind her. He was young for a Corvin warrior, only 200 years old, but he had served under Thala for 20 years. "The crew is confused, Commander," Jaren said carefully. "They do not understand why you married a human." Thala turned from the window. Her golden eyes were thoughtful. "I did not marry him, Jaren. He married me. There is a difference. But you signed the contract too. Your name was already there." "Yes." Thala walked to her desk where the marriage document lay open. "I was studying it for the cultural exchange program. It is one of our oldest ceremonies. I never thought a human would be brave enough to claim it." Jaren frowned. "Brave, Commander, he signed it by accident." "Did he?" Thala picked up the document, studying Jinwoo's signature. "Perhaps. Or perhaps the gods guided his hand. Either way, he has shown more courage than most Corvin males." "How can you say that? He is tiny, weak. He probably weighs less than your armor." Thala laughed, a sound like distant thunder. "Strength is not only about size, Jaren. This human came to our ship surrounded by warriors who could crush him like an insect. He stayed calm. He completed the ceremony without running away. Even when he realized what happened, he did not beg or make excuses. She moved to her computer and began typing. I want to learn more about humans. Order the cultural database. Everything we have about Earth. 3 days later, news of the marriage spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every major news service picked up the story. The headlines were not kind to Jinwoo. Human diplomat accidentally marries alien warrior. Earth's biggest diplomatic mistake. The tiny human and the giant wife. Jinwoo tried not to read the articles, but they were everywhere. His face appeared on news screens across human space, usually next to a picture of Thala that made her look like a monster from old movies. His sister Dayun called him from the university where she worked as a language expert. Jinwoo, I have been researching Corvan marriage laws. You need to hear this. Please tell me there is a way out, Jinwoo said, rubbing his tired eyes. There is no divorce in Corvan culture, Dayun said gently. But that is not the worst part. I found something called the trial of worthiness. If other Corvans think you are not good enough for Thala, they can challenge the marriage. Challenge it how? Combat, political pressure. They could demand proof that you deserve to be married to one of their greatest warriors. Jinwoo felt his stomach sink. And if I fail? Thala loses her rank and command. She becomes an outcast. And you, Dayun paused. The records are not clear about what happens to humans who fail Corvan trials. That evening, Jinwoo was eating a sad dinner alone in his apartment when the building shook. Car alarms went off in the street below. Through his window, he could see a massive shadow blocking out the stars. The Starbreaker had returned. An hour later, Thala Vek stood in the lobby of his apartment building. She had to duck to fit through the doorway, and her footsteps cracked the marble floor. Residents peeked out from behind doors and plants, staring at the alien warrior in their building. She knocked on his door with one finger. The sound was like someone hitting a drum. Jinwoo Kim, she called out. We need to talk. He opened the door and found himself looking up at her armored chest. She was even bigger than he remembered. Commander, I did not expect to see you again. May I come in? Jinwoo looked at his tiny apartment, then at her massive frame. I do not think you will fit. Thala smiled for the first time since he had met her. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and less terrifying. Then we talk here. She sat down in the hallway, cross-legged on the floor. Even sitting, she was taller than Jinwoo standing up. Other residents gathered at the far end of the hall to watch. I have been studying your people, she said in perfect Korean. Jinwoo nearly fell over. You speak Korean? I speak 12 human languages now. Your species is fascinating. So many different cultures on one small planet. So much creativity in art and music. She pulled out a small device that projected images in the air. I have been reading your history. Your wars, your achievements. The way you explore space even though you are so young. Why? Because you are my husband, she said simply. And I know nothing about humans except what other species tell us. They say you are weak, emotional, unstable. But I think they are wrong. Jinwoo sat down across from her in his doorway. About the marriage? Admiral Nextaran has challenged it, she interrupted. He claims a human cannot be worthy of a Corvan warrior. He demands a trial of worthiness, Dayun mentioned that. What does it mean exactly? Thala's expression grew serious. 3 tests. Physical courage, tactical intelligence, and emotional strength. If you fail any of them, the marriage is dissolved and I lose my command. And if I refuse to take the tests, same result? Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Down the hall, he could see his neighbors whispering and pointing at them. Outside, news crews were probably setting up cameras. This Admiral Nex, he does not like you much, does he? Thala snorted. He has wanted my position for 50 years. He thinks humans are inferior, and that marriage to you makes me weak. He plans to use this trial to destroy my reputation. So if I walk away, you lose everything. If I try and fail, you lose everything. What if I try and succeed? Then we stay married and I keep my command. But Jinwoo, she leaned forward, her golden eyes intense. These trials are designed for Corvan warriors. No human has ever attempted them. You could be killed. Jinwoo thought about his quiet life as a junior diplomat, filing reports, attending boring meetings, never taking risks, never doing anything that mattered. He looked up at Thala, this warrior woman who commanded starships and fought battles across the galaxy. Someone had challenged her because of him. Her career was at stake because of his mistake. When do we start? He asked. Thala stared at him for a moment, then that smile returned. The trial begins in 1 week. The entire galaxy will be watching. No pressure then. Jinwoo, she said, standing up and towering over him again. I have spent 3 days studying humans. You are stronger than you know. Your people have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would break other species. You explore the unknown even when it terrifies you. She turned to leave, then paused. My quarters on the ship are being prepared for both of us. We will train together for the trials. Both of us? A Corvin marriage is a partnership, she said. We succeed together, or we fail together. As she walked away, ducking under door frames and cracking floor tiles, Jinwoo realized his life had just changed forever. In 1 week, he would face trials designed for alien warriors twice his size. But for the first time since signing that document, he was not afraid. He was excited. The Corvin High Command arrived at Earth like a fleet of moving cities. 12 massive ships took position around the planet, each one carrying thousands of warriors and officials. News crews from 50 different species gathered to watch what many called the most important trial in galactic history. Jinwoo stood on the observation deck of the Starbreaker, watching the fleet assemble. He had spent the past week training with Thala, learning basic Corvin combat moves and studying their culture. His body ached from exercises designed for beings 3 times his size. Nervous? Thala asked, joining him at the window. Terrified, Jinwoo admitted, but also ready. She nodded approvingly. Fear is not weakness. Fear means you understand the danger. Wise warriors are always afraid before battle. Admiral Nex Terran's ship was the largest of the fleet. The iron fist stretched across the sky like a black mountain, bristling with weapons and armor. Through the viewports, Jinwoo could see thousands of warriors gathering for the ceremony. He brought half the Corvin military, Jinwoo observed. He wants witnesses, Thala said. When you fail, he wants everyone to see that humans are weak. It will justify his hatred of your species. When I fail? Not if I fail? Thala turned to look at him, her golden eyes serious. The trials are designed to test Corvin warriors at their peak. You are human. You will fail at least one of them. The question is whether you will fail with honor. Her honesty should have been discouraging, but somehow it made Jinwoo feel better. No false hope. No empty promises. Just truth. The trial arena was built on a small moon between Earth and Mars. Corvin engineers had worked for 3 days to create a massive stadium that could hold 50,000 spectators. The floor was divided into 3 sections, each designed for a different test. Jinwoo wore simple Corvin training armor that had been resized for his human frame. It felt heavy and awkward, but Thala insisted it was necessary. Around his neck hung a small communication device that would translate his words for the alien audience. Citizens of the galaxy, Elder Corrin's voice boomed across the arena. We gather to witness the trial of worthiness. The human Jinwoo Kim must prove himself worthy of marriage to Commander Thala Vex through 3 tests: physical courage, tactical intelligence, and emotional strength. The crowd roared its approval. Jinwoo could see beings from dozens of species in the stands. Most looked like they expected him to die quickly. Admiral Nex stood in the command box, his dark armor gleaming under the arena lights. He was even bigger than Thala, with battle scars covering his arms and face. When he spoke, his voice carried easily across the stadium. The human claims to be worthy of our greatest warrior, Nex announced. Let us see if he has the strength to back up his words. The first trial began immediately. A section of the arena floor opened up and something massive climbed out of the depths below. Jinwoo heard gasps from the crowd as the Corvin war beast emerged. It looked like a cross between a bear and a dragon, standing 12 feet tall on powerful legs. Its hide was covered in natural armor plates and its claws could tear through steel. Red eyes glowed with animal intelligence as it spotted Jinwoo across the arena. The trial of courage, Elder Corrin announced. The candidate must face the war beast and prove his bravery. Death is acceptable. Retreat is not. The beast charged immediately, moving faster than something that size should be able to move. Jinwoo rolled to the side as claws raked the ground where he had been standing. The crowd cheered, expecting the fight to end quickly, but Jinwoo had spent the week studying war beast behavior with Thala. He knew they were intelligent, not just mindless killers. Instead of running or attacking, he did something no Corvin had ever tried. He stopped moving and began to speak. Easy, he said in the Corvin language. holding his hands out peacefully. "I am not here to hurt you." The beast paused, confused. Prey was not supposed to talk. Jinwoo took a slow step forward, continuing to speak in calm, soothing tones. He had learned that war beasts were originally domestic animals, bred for riding and companionship before they were turned into weapons. The arena fell silent as Jinwoo approached the massive creature. Even Admiral Nex leaned forward in his seat, staring in disbelief. "You are beautiful," Jinwoo told the beast, now close enough to touch its armored snout. "Strong and proud. But tired of fighting, aren't you?" The war beast's red eyes began to dim. It lowered its head, allowing Jinwoo to place his hand on its nose. The crowd erupted in shocked voices as the most dangerous creature in the Corvan military settled down like a giant pet. "Impossible," Nex muttered. "Unprecedented," Elder Corran announced, sounding amazed. "The human has tamed a war beast without violence. The first trial is complete. The second trial began an hour later." Jinwoo was led to a command center overlooking a massive holographic display. The simulation showed a space battle with impossible odds. A small fleet of 10 ships faced an enemy force of 50 vessels. "The trial of intelligence," Elder Corran explained. "The candidate must command our fleet to victory against overwhelming enemy forces. This is the same scenario that destroyed Admiral Korax the Brave 200 years ago." Jinwoo studied the tactical display while Corvan officers explained the controls. Each ship had different strengths and weaknesses. The enemy fleet was positioned to attack from multiple directions at once. Traditional Corvan tactics focused on direct assault and overwhelming force. But Jinwoo had grown up playing strategy games and studying human military history. He knew that sometimes the best way to win was not to fight at all. Instead of ordering his ships to attack, Jinwoo divided his fleet into 3 groups and sent them in different directions. The crowd murmured in confusion as his ships appeared to retreat. "The human flees," Admiral Nex said loudly. "As I predicted, but Jinwoo was not fleeing. He was setting a trap. While the enemy fleet chased his scattered ships, he guided them through an asteroid field. Human pilots would have found it impossible to navigate, but the simulation assumed Corvan reflexes and skill. The enemy ships followed, confident in their superior numbers. But Jinwoo had studied the asteroid patterns carefully. When the enemy fleet was deep in the field, he triggered his real plan. His ships fired their weapons not at the enemy vessels, but at specific asteroids. The massive rocks exploded, creating a chain reaction that trapped the entire enemy fleet in a deadly maze of debris. "Brilliant," whispered Captain Jaren, who was watching from the audience. The simulation ended with total victory. The enemy fleet was destroyed without losing a single friendly ship. The arena erupted in cheers from species that appreciated clever tactics. Admiral Nex's face was dark with anger. "Tricks and deception. This is not how honorable warriors fight. This is how humans fight," Thala said quietly, pride clear in her voice. Elder Corran raised his staff for silence. "The second trial is complete. The candidate has shown intelligence beyond expectation. The final trial would not take place for another day." As Jinwoo left the arena, he felt both exhausted and energized. 2 trials down, 1 to go. But the hardest test was still ahead. The trial of emotional strength would require him and Thala to work together on a hostile world, with no help and minimal supplies. They would have to survive for 7 days while their every move was broadcast to the galaxy. "How do you feel?" Thala asked as they walked back to their ship. "Like I just proved that humans can surprise everyone," Jinwoo replied, "including ourselves." "Good," she said. "Because tomorrow we find out if we can surprise each other." The final trial would test not just their individual strength, but the bond between them. And unlike the first 2 trials, failure would mean death for both of them. The moon Zerion Prime was a nightmare world where nothing was supposed to live. Acid storms swept across its rocky surface every few hours. The gravity was 3 times stronger than Earth normal. Poisonous plants grew in twisted shapes between jagged rocks, and somewhere in this wasteland, Jinwoo and Thala had to survive for 7 days. They stood at the drop point wearing basic survival gear and carrying minimal supplies. 1 water recycler, some emergency food, and simple tools. Everything else they would have to find or make themselves. "The trial of emotional strength begins now," Elder Corran announced to the billions watching across the galaxy. "The bonded pair must demonstrate their unity and mutual support. They will succeed together or die together." A transport ship dropped them on a rocky plateau and flew away immediately. Within minutes, they were completely alone on the hostile moon. Cameras floated around them like mechanical insects, recording their every move for the galactic audience. "How long until the first storm?" Jinwoo asked, checking his basic scanner. 2 hours, Thala replied, studying the violent sky. "We need shelter immediately." The landscape offered few options. Most of the surface was bare rock or poisonous vegetation. But Jinwoo spotted something in the distance that made him think of human survival training. There, he pointed to a cluster of large boulders. "We can build something between those rocks." They hurried across the uneven ground. The heavy gravity made every step difficult for Jinwoo, but Thala seemed barely affected. Her massive frame was built for harsh conditions. "Tell me about human shelters," she said as they walked. "Your species survives in many different environments." Jinwoo found himself talking about camping trips with his family, about Arctic explorers and desert nomads. As he spoke, he realized Thala was not just making conversation. She was learning, studying human adaptation techniques. "Humans are weak individually," he said, "but we are very good at working together and changing our environment." "Show me," Thala said simply. They reached the boulder cluster just as the wind began to pick up. Jinwoo studied the rock formation while Thala gathered materials. Working together, they built a shelter that combined Corvan engineering strength with human flexibility. Thala used her massive strength to move heavy stones into position. Jinwoo designed the structure to redirect wind and acid rain away from their living space. They wove poisonous vines into waterproof barriers, with Thala's thick skin protecting her from the toxic plants, while Jinwoo's smaller hands did detailed work she could not manage. The first acid storm hit just as they finished. They huddled, together in their shelter while corrosive rain pounded the rocks outside. The cameras continued recording, showing the galaxy how a human and Corvan could work as partners. "Not bad," Thala admitted, listening to the storm rage around their small safe space. "Thanks. Though I have to ask, how are your people watching this?" "The cameras must be getting damaged by the acid. Corvan technology is very durable," Thala explained. "These cameras can survive almost anything. The whole galaxy is watching us right now." Jinwoo felt a moment of panic. Billions of beings were judging every word he spoke, every action he took. Then he looked at Thala, who seemed completely calm despite the situation. "Does that bother you, being watched like this?" "I am a military commander," she said. "I am always being watched and judged. But this is different. Usually I am alone with my choices. Now I have a partner." The storm lasted 6 hours. During that time, they talked about their very different lives. Thala described growing up on a military world where children began combat training at age 5. Jinwoo told her about Earth schools and cities, about art museums and music concerts. "Your people value creativity above strength," Thala observed. "Not above, but equally. We learned that the strongest person cannot solve every problem. Sometimes you need someone who thinks differently, like taming a war beast instead of fighting it." "Exactly." When the storm ended, they ventured out to find food and water. The acid rain had created small pools of clean water in rock depressions, but they would need to move quickly before the liquid evaporated. Thala could easily carry enough water for both of them, but Jinwoo insisted on doing his share. The effort nearly exhausted him in the heavy gravity, but he refused to give up. "Why do you push yourself so hard?" Thala asked as they rested beside a water pool. "I am stronger. I should carry more." "Because this is a test of partnership," Jinwoo replied, breathing heavily. "If you do everything, then I am just baggage. We need to both contribute something valuable." That evening, they discovered their greatest challenge yet. Jinwoo's scanner detected movement in the distance, large shapes moving between the rocks. The local wildlife was coming to investigate the newcomers. "Corvan files say nothing lives on this moon," Thala said, studying the readings. "Maybe the files are wrong," Jinwoo suggested. "Life finds a way, even in impossible places." The creatures that approached their shelter looked like giant lizards with crystal spines. They moved in a pack, communicating with clicking sounds. Each one was twice the size of Thala. "They are curious about us," Jinwoo observed, watching their behavior. "Look how they move. They are not hunting. They are investigating." "How can you tell?" "Predators move differently. These are acting like tourists." Thala laughed despite the danger. "Tourists? They want to know what we are, same as we want to know what they are." Instead of hiding in their shelter, Jinwoo made a decision that surprised everyone watching. He stepped outside, moving slowly and keeping his hands visible. The crystal lizard stopped advancing, watching him carefully. "Jinwoo, what are you doing?" Thala called out. "Making friends," he replied. He began speaking to the creatures in soft, calm tones, the same approach that had worked with the war beast. But these were wild animals, not trained fighters. They had no reason to trust humans or Corvins. One of the larger lizards approached, its crystal spines glowing softly in the dim light. Jinwoo held perfectly still as it sniffed around him. Then, to everyone's amazement, the creature made a purring sound and rubbed against his leg like a giant cat. "Incredible," breathed a commentator on the galactic newsfeed. "The human is communicating with unknown wildlife." Soon the entire pack was surrounding Jinwoo and Thala, treating them like fascinating visitors rather than threats. The lizards even helped them find better sources of food and water, leading them to hidden caves with edible fungi. "How did you know they would be friendly?" Thala asked later as they shared a meal with their unexpected allies. "I did not know," Jinwoo admitted. "But fear makes bad decisions. If we had attacked first, they would have attacked back. By showing trust, we created the possibility for friendship." "That is very human thinking." "Is that bad?" Thala looked at him seriously. "It is exactly what the galaxy needs to learn." On the third day, disaster struck. Jinwoo slipped while climbing between rocks and fell badly. His left leg twisted at an unnatural angle, and he cried out in pain. The sound echoed across the rocky landscape. Thala was beside him instantly, her massive hands surprisingly gentle as she examined the injury. "Broken," she said grimly. "The bone is cracked in 2 places. Can you set it?" "Yes, but you will not be able to walk for days, maybe weeks." Jinwoo looked around at the hostile landscape. They still had 4 days left in the trial. Without his mobility, they would never be able to gather enough resources to survive. "You should leave me," he said quietly. Thala stared at him as if he had suggested she cut off her own arm. "What did you say?" "Complete the trial alone. You can survive without me. I am just slowing you down now." "Jinwoo Kim." Thala's voice was deadly serious. "If you ever suggest that again, I will break your other leg myself." She carefully lifted him and carried him back to their shelter. For the next hour, she worked to set his broken bones and create a splint from salvage materials. Her touch was gentle despite her massive strength. "Why?" Jinwoo asked through gritted teeth as she finished the medical work. "You could have an honored career without this complication. Why stay with a broken human?" Thala sat beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the light from their small fire. "Because you are not just my accidental husband anymore. You are my partner, and Corvin warriors never abandon their partners." Outside, their shelter, the crystal lizards had formed a protective circle, as if they too understood that the injured human needed protection. The galaxy watched as one of the mightiest warriors in known space chose to risk everything for one small human. And for the first time, many began to understand what humans meant when they talked about love. The final 3 days on Zirion Prime tested every limit of endurance and partnership. Jinwoo's broken leg forced him to depend on Thala for movement, while she relied on his knowledge and quick thinking to solve problems her strength could not handle. They built a more permanent shelter together. Thala moved massive stones while Jinwoo designed clever water collection systems and food storage areas. The crystal lizards brought them gifts of strange fruits and showed them safe paths through the poisonous landscape. "Look at them work," whispered Captain Jaren, watching from the command center of the Starbreaker. "They have become a real team." Ambassador Lee nodded from beside him. Jinwoo was always good at adapting to new situations, but I have never seen him this confident before. On the seventh day, a transport ship arrived to collect them. Thala carried Jinwoo to the pickup point, where Elder Korin waited with measuring devices to check their health and mental state. The trial of emotional strength is complete, the Elder announced to the watching galaxy. Both participants have survived and demonstrated remarkable unity. As they flew back to the main fleet, Jinwoo looked down at the hostile moon where they had spent a week learning to trust each other completely. I am going to miss those crystal lizards. They will be fine, Thala assured him. Your friendship taught them that not all visitors are enemies. You may have changed their entire species. The ceremonial hall aboard Admiral Nex's flagship was packed with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. News reporters floated in zero-gravity sections, their cameras recording every moment of the final judgment. Elder Korin stood before the assembled crowd, holding the ancient marriage document that had started everything. The trials are complete. Jinwoo Kim has demonstrated courage, intelligence, and emotional strength worthy of a Corvan warrior. The crowd murmured approval, but Admiral Nex rose from his seat with anger burning in his golden eyes. I object to this decision, he declared, his voice carrying across the hall. The human only succeeded because Commander Thala helped him. He is weak and proved nothing except that our warriors will risk themselves for inferior beings. The trials test partnership, Elder Korin replied calmly. Both participants were judged together. Partnership, Nex spat. This proves my point. Thala has been corrupted by human weakness. She chose to stay with a broken human instead of completing her mission. This is not strength. This is sentiment. Murmurs of agreement came from some of the Corvan warriors. Nex had supporters who believed humans were too different to be trusted as allies. Furthermore, Nex continued, I question the validity of this entire marriage. How do we know the human did not sign that document on purpose? How do we know this was not a human trick to gain access to our military secrets? The accusation hung in the air like poison. If Jinwoo had deliberately signed the marriage contract, it would be considered an act of espionage rather than an honest mistake. That is a serious charge, Elder Korin said slowly. Do you have evidence? I have questions that demand answers, Nex replied. And I have the right to challenge this marriage under the oldest laws of our people. That was when Elder Korin did something that shocked everyone in the hall. He began to laugh. The ancient Corvan's laughter echoed off the metal walls, growing louder until it drowned out all other sound. Warriors who had never seen the stern elder show emotion stared in amazement. You wish to challenge this marriage, Admiral Nex? Korin asked when his laughter finally stopped. You question its validity? I do. Then you are a fool who knows nothing about his own people's history. Korin activated a holographic display that showed the marriage document in detail. Ancient Corvan script glowed in the air above the crowd, magnified so everyone could read it. This is not just any marriage contract, the elder announced. This is the binding of stars, the most sacred ceremony in all of Corvan history. It has been used only 7 times in the past 1,000 years, reserved for unions that will change the fate of entire civilizations. The hall fell completely silent. Even Admiral Nex looked stunned. The binding of stars cannot be dissolved by any earthly power, Korin continued. It cannot be challenged or questioned once the signatures are placed. According to our most ancient laws, such marriages are blessed by the spirits of our ancestors themselves. He turned to face Jinwoo and Thala, who sat together in the center of the hall. When Commander Thala placed this document on the ceremonial table, she was not studying it for historical research. She was offering herself for the binding of stars, hoping to find a worthy partner among the Corvan warriors present. Thala's face showed surprise for the first time since Jinwoo had known her. Elder, I did not know. The spirits guided the human's hand to sign where his signature belonged, Korin said with certainty. This was no accident. This was destiny. The revelation sent shockwaves through the crowd. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once. News reporters scrambled to update their stories, but Admiral Nex was not finished. Even if this marriage is valid, it proves that humans are trying to infiltrate our military. Thala has been compromised. She chose a human over her duty to the Empire. And what would you have done, Admiral? Asked a new voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned to see Dr. Yilasam, the Corvan's leading scientist, approaching the speaker's platform. She carried a portable computer that projected data into the air. I have spent the past week analyzing the psychological compatibility between humans and Corvans, she announced. The results are remarkable. Charts and graphs filled the holographic display. Complex equations that only scientists could understand scrolled past in glowing text. Humans and Corvins complement each other perfectly, Dr. Sam explained. Where we are strong, they provide flexibility. Where they are weak, we offer protection. Our species are not just compatible. We are designed to work together. She highlighted specific data points. Human creativity combined with Corvin discipline creates solutions neither species could achieve alone. We have seen this proven in the trials. The human tamed a war beast through communication. He won a tactical battle through unconventional strategy. He survived on Zirian Prime by making friends with wildlife. These are not human weaknesses, she concluded. These are human strengths that our species needs to learn. Admiral Nex stepped forward, his face dark with rage. You speak of cooperation, but I know the truth. This entire situation is a lie designed to weaken the Corvin Empire. He pulled out a small communication device. I have proof that humans cannot be trusted. I have been in contact with the Zephyrian Collective. They are willing to offer us better terms for alliance than Earth ever could. The hall erupted in shocked voices. Captain Jaren and several other young officers immediately moved to surround Nex, their hands on their weapons. You have been working with our enemies? Thala asked, rising to her full height. I have been protecting our empire from contamination, Nex replied. And the Zephyrians agree that humans are a threat to galactic stability. Then you are a traitor, Elder Corrin declared. And your opposition to this marriage is revealed as the political manipulation it always was. But even as guards moved to arrest Admiral Nex, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed red and automated voices announced incoming attacks. Through the viewports, everyone could see Zephyrian ships decloaking around the fleet. Dozens of sleek, deadly vessels that had been hidden by advanced technology. The collective grows tired of waiting, Admiral Nex said with satisfaction. They strike now while your forces are scattered for this pointless ceremony. The first energy beams lanced through space, striking Corvin ships that were not prepared for battle. The trial of a human diplomat had become the opening move in an interstellar war. Thala looked at Jinwu, who was struggling to stand on his injured leg. Can you fight? I cannot run, he replied, but I can think. And right now, thinking might be more important than fighting. As explosions lit up the space around them, the galaxy's most unlikely married couple prepared to face their greatest test yet. The Zephyrian attack hit the Corvin fleet like lightning from a clear sky. Their ships appeared from nowhere, sleek and deadly, firing energy weapons that cut through armor like paper. Within minutes, 3 Corvin vessels were burning in space. Jinwu watched the battle unfold from the command center, his broken leg making him useless for physical combat. But his mind was racing, analyzing the enemy movements and looking for patterns. They are using our ceremony against us, he told Thala as she coordinated the defense. All our ships are spread out for viewing instead of fighting formation. The fleet is repositioning, Thala replied, speaking into her communication device. But it will take time we do not have. Admiral Nex stood surrounded by guards but still defiant. The collective knows all your tactics, he said with satisfaction. I have given them complete information about Corvin military doctrine. You cannot win. Maybe Corvin tactics alone cannot win, Jinwu said thoughtfully. But what about human tactics combined with Corvin strength? Thala turned to look at him. What do you mean? Give me command access to the communication system. I have an idea. You are not a military officer, one of the Corvin captains protested. You have no authority here. He is my husband, Thala said firmly. And according to the binding of stars, that makes him family to every warrior in this fleet. Give him what he needs. The communication system connected Jinwu to every human ship in the area. Earth's small defense fleet had been observing the ceremony from a safe distance, but now they were the only vessels not being targeted by the Zephyrians. This is Jinwu Kim calling all human vessels, he announced. I need you to do something crazy. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Harmony responded immediately. Jinwu, what is your status? We can see the battle from here. I need you to link your navigation computers with the Corvin ships. Create a shared tactical network. That is impossible, Captain Chen replied. Our systems are completely different. Human and Corvin technology does not work together. It does now, Dr. Yila Sam interrupted, appearing beside Jinwu with her portable computer. I have been working on compatibility protocols. Give me 2 minutes. While the scientist worked frantically to connect the different systems, Jinwoo explained his plan to the combined fleet. It was based on something he had learned playing strategy games as a child, combined with what he knew about both human and Corvin strengths. Humans are good at improvisation and quick changes, he told the mixed crews. Corvins are good at discipline and following complex plans. Together, we can do something neither species could manage alone. The tactical network came online just as the Zephyrians launched their second wave of attacks. Suddenly, human pilots could see through Corvin sensors while Corvin gunners could target through human computers. All ships, this is your new tactical coordinator, Jinwoo announced. Forget everything you know about fleet combat. We are going to fight like humans. Instead of the standard Corvin wall formation, Jinwoo scattered the combined fleet into small groups that moved independently. Each group had both human and Corvin ships working together, using their different capabilities to support each other. The Zephyrians had prepared for traditional Corvin tactics, but they had never faced this kind of fluid, adaptive combat. Human ships darted between asteroids while Corvin vessels provided heavy firepower. The coordination was seamless, as if the two species had been fighting together for centuries. Impossible, Admiral Nex muttered, watching his allies struggle against the unexpected tactics. But the Zephyrians adapted quickly. Their commander, a cold-blooded strategist named Overlord Vex, began targeting the communication links between human and Corvin ships. If he could break their coordination, the alliance would collapse. They are jamming our signals, reported Captain Chen. We are losing the tactical network. Then we get closer, Jinwoo decided. All ships form up on the flagship. We fight as one unit. It was the most dangerous possible strategy. Bringing all the ships together made them a perfect target for the Zephyrian superweapons, but it also allowed them to share power and communication through direct physical links. Thala took personal command of the close-range battle. Her tactical brilliance, enhanced by Jinwoo's creative thinking, turned the combined fleet into something the galaxy had never seen before. Human adaptability, guided by Corvin discipline, created new forms of combat that confused and overwhelmed their enemies. The turning point came when Jinwoo realized that the Zephyrian ships had a weakness. Their cloaking technology required enormous amounts of power, leaving their weapon systems slightly weaker than they appeared. All ships target their power cores, he commanded. Ignore the weapons. Hit their engines and cloaking devices. The strategy worked perfectly. As Zephyrian ships lost their ability to hide, they became easy targets for the superior firepower of the combined fleet. One by one, enemy vessels were disabled or destroyed. Overlord Vex, seeing his carefully planned attack falling apart, made a desperate decision. He ordered his flagship to ram the Corvin command vessel, hoping to kill the leadership of both species with one final strike. Incoming collision course, warned the ship's computer. Impact in 30 seconds. All crew to escape pods, Thala ordered, but she knew there was not enough time. The enemy ship was too close and moving too fast. That was when Jinwoo made his own desperate decision. Thala, get me to the shuttle bay. What are you planning? Something stupid and human, he replied, struggling to stand on his broken leg. Trust me. Thala carried him to the shuttle bay where a small maintenance craft waited. Despite his injury, Jinwoo managed to pilot the tiny ship out into space directly toward the approaching Zephyrian flagship. Jinwoo, what are you doing? Thala's voice crackled through the communication system. Buying time, he replied, and proving that humans can be just as crazy as Corvins. He flew the small shuttle directly at the enemy ship's bridge, dodging defensive fire through maneuvers that should have been impossible in such a tiny craft. At the last second, he activated the shuttle's emergency beacon and ejected. The beacon signal, broadcast on all frequencies, contained a message that reached every ship in the battle area. This is how humans say hello to bullies, Jinwoo announced as his shuttle impacted the Zephyrian flagship's bridge. The explosion was tiny compared to the massive ship, but it destroyed the enemy's command center and navigation systems. The flagship spun out of control, missing the Corvin vessel by mere meters and crashing into an asteroid. Overlord Vex was captured alive, along with evidence of his alliance with Admiral Nex. The remaining Zephyrian ships retreated. Their carefully planned invasion turned into a complete disaster. 3 hours later, Jinwoo woke up in the medical bay with his leg properly treated and Thala sitting beside his bed. Through the viewport, he could see the combined human and Corvin fleets working together to clean up the battle debris. How do you feel? Thala asked. Like I just proved that marriage is a team sport, he replied weakly. Elder Corrin appeared in the doorway, carrying official documents. The Corvin High Command has voted. The alliance between our species is now permanent, and you two are being appointed as the first joint ambassadors. What about Admiral Nex? Jinwoo asked. He will face trial for treason, Thala replied. His own officers testified against him. It seems that working with enemies is considered dishonorable even by his supporters. 6 months later, Jinwoo and Thala stood together on the observation deck of the new joint embassy station orbiting Earth. The facility was a marvel of combined human and Corvin engineering, designed to accommodate both species comfortably. Any regrets about signing that contract? Thala asked, watching human and Corvin children playing together in the station's garden. Only that it took me so long to realize what I was signing, Jinwoo replied. Dr. Yila, some had confirmed that their first child would be healthy and strong, possessing the best qualities of both species. The baby would grow up in a galaxy where humans and Corvins worked together as equals, where differences were celebrated rather than feared. The marriage that began with a mistake had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization. Other species were already requesting to join the alliance, drawn by the success of human-Corvin cooperation. The galaxy is changing, Thala observed, because one human was brave enough to sign an alien marriage contract. Actually, Jinwoo corrected her with a smile. The galaxy is changing because one Corvin warrior was brave enough to marry a human who had no idea what he was doing. As they watched the stars together, representatives from 12 different species were arriving for the first Galactic Cooperation Council. The age of isolated civilizations was ending, replaced by something new and hopeful. It had all started with one mistaken signature, witnessed by everyone in the galaxy. But it had become something much more important. Proof that love and partnership could overcome any difference, any obstacle, any enemy. The human and the massive alien woman who had captured the galaxy's attention were no longer a curiosity or an accident. They were the future, standing together and looking toward tomorrow with confidence and joy. And somewhere in the distance, new couples from different species were learning that the strongest bonds are often forged in the most unexpected ways.